Now, Moscow views America as the good guys and Europe as the troublemakers.
One tries to give words and interpret without understanding. I'm done. Okay. I'm off. I don't like you.
Okay. Well, that's fine, Dr. Halper Hayes. Maybe some of the listeners won't like you, but that's fine. I'm entirely indifferent to that. I'm very grateful for your time. Dr. Jan Halper Hayes there, former Global Vice President of Republicans overseas. Apparently I'm not going to be on her Christmas card list. Maybe.
Trump administration claims that by pausing military aid to Ukraine and by stopping intelligence sharing with Kiev, America is facilitating the peace process. But from this article in today's Moskovsky Komsomolets, it seems that Russia views US pressure on Ukraine as a golden opportunity to make gains on the battlefield. Ukrainian troops have been left without intelligence on the eve of a major spring-summer campaign. The Ukrainian army, deprived of US military equipment and American intelligence, will soon have a nasty surprise. Analysts believe the Russian army may launch a large spring-summer offensive. It will require a massive effort by Ukraine to discover the details. A Russian military analyst tells the paper, many analysts are sure that Russia is preparing big reserve forces, large units that will 100% advance in the spring-summer period. Right now it's the muddy season, but when the ground dries, we'll move. In the past, the enemy always discovered our plans beforehand. It was very difficult for us to conceal the movements of large troop formations. NATO saw everything with their satellites and transmitted all the information to the Ukrainian army by radio-technical means. Now we have a higher chance of finding the enemy's weak spot and striking when they're not expecting it.
I try this on for size, right? Russia is bombing the bejesus out of Ukraine. Drone attacks in the last 24 hours. I think reached levels that haven't been seen for a while. And in the meantime, what is Ukraine doing? Answer, well, not a lot, because the United States of America has stopped sharing intelligence with Kyiv, as we touched upon yesterday, but I don't think at the time it had actually happened. It had merely been reported. We still live in a space where some people keep telling us to ignore what Donald Trump says and focus only on what he does. Well, he's done what he said he would do. He's stopped sharing intelligence with Ukraine, which essentially, on top of the suspension of military aid, is a form of military castration. If he then agrees to come to peace talks, then the bans will be lifted. But of course, we know that the peace talks are likely to involve, as Russian media are reporting, a complete capitulation, if that's the correct word or the correct pronunciation, to Vladimir Putin. Have you any?
In its reporting of yesterday's EU summit, the government paper Российская газета declares in Brussels the summit participants undermined America's peace initiatives. While Trump is demanding a swift end to the Ukraine conflict, the Europeans and the Brits standing behind them are trying to come up with ways to continue pouring oil on the fire in Ukraine. Now, Moscow views America as the good guys and Europe as the troublemakers. Another very pro-Kremlin paper, Izvestia, claims that Britain is once again trying to derail the peace process in Ukraine. And let me introduce you to one of Moscow's favourite anti-British sayings that you often hear Russian officials and pro-Kremlin commentators use. It's quoted here by a Russian professor. The Englishwoman always causes a mess. This saying dates back to the 19th century and still applies today. By contrast, there is praise here for America's pragmatism. What's more, today's edition of the business paper RBK reports the head of the American Chamber of Commerce in Russia, Robert Agee, is preparing a white paper for the US authorities with proposals for removing sanctions. Mr. Agee tells the paper, first of all, we're asking for sanctions to be removed in the aviation sector. This relates to spare parts and technical support for aircraft. Secondly, we're proposing removing the ban on American companies investing in Russia. The third part involves removing sanctions on Russian banks. The fourth part, removing restrictions on the supply of luxury goods, including cosmetics.
You're right now not in a very good position. Not in a very good position. God bless the United States.